South China Morning Post, 7th of December 2022, will the proposed foreign voting law in South Korea stir up anti-Chinese sentiment? China has been meddling in South Korea's elections and undermining democracy by adopting unethical tactics. Critics have criticized South Korea's ruling party's proposal to restrict foreigners' ability to vote to prevent China from meddling in its elections as a polarizing move that could incite hatred toward the Chinese population. A close associate of President Yoon Suk-and yeol's congressman from the People Power Party, PPP, which is currently in power, Kweon Seong-dong, claimed on Tuesday that the party has put out a measure to tighten limits on foreign residents' ability to vote. According to him, foreigners' voting rights may sway public opinion. In fact, by interfering in the elections in Australia and Canada, China has stoked international tension. Because of this, many people's worries are justified. This year, Australian and Canadian governments expressed concern over purported Chinese attempts to sway their elections. Kweon stated on his Facebook page that election processes are crucial tools to sustain and operate a free democracy and they must not be exploited. The law, put forth by Kweon and 17 other party members, restricts voting rights to foreigners from nations that permit South Korean permanent residents to vote in their elections and who have stayed in South Korea for at least 5 years after becoming permanent residents. Kweon's office claimed it was unaware of any nation that would meet such requirements. According to South Korea's National Election Commission, a handful of countries, including Sweden, Denmark, Iceland, and Chile, let foreigners who have lived there for a predetermined number of years cast a ballot in municipal elections. Foreign citizens who have lived in South Korea for at least 3 years after obtaining permanent residency are eligible to vote in local elections for governors, mayors, and city council members, according to a 2005 law passed by the former Liberal administration of President Roh Moo-hyun. The majority of Koreans residing abroad, according to Kweon, do not have the right to vote, and it is clearly impossible for them to vote in communist nations like China. In contrast, citizens can only exercise their right to vote in the United States and the United Kingdom. Anti-Chinese sentiments are increasing globally. Ma Jianhyun, a Chinese national who heads an association of Chinese who emigrated from Shandong province, expressed his fear that the measure would inflame anti-Chinese feelings and further polarize public opinion regarding the public's animosity toward the Chinese. Ma describes himself as a conservative and a naturalized citizen. He added that the political spectrums of the Chinese citizens here are pretty diverse. However, it is governed by the Chinese Communist Party. Political analyst Choi Jin claimed that the proposed bill places the opposition party in a difficult situation because the action is likely to be supported by the majority of South Koreans, gave the country's growing resentment toward an assertive China and Beijing's alliance with the threatening Pyongyang. According to Choi, there have been rising worries that the country's expanding Chinese population may use its growing economic might to influence politics. Additionally, China was instrumental in establishing North Korea as a buffer state between itself and democratic South Korea. However, it is undeniable that the action was taken for political reasons to win over conservative voters. The Democratic Party of Korea, a liberal opposition party, indicated through a spokeswoman that the group has not yet decided whether to support or reject the law. Chinese voters, who influenced the Communist Party, controlled skewed polls. Conservatives have claimed that Chinese residents of South Korea are influencing local election outcomes by abusing their right to vote, even though Chinese citizens living in Korea have no right to vote. 120,000 foreign citizens were eligible to vote in the June municipal elections. Of the 44 million voters, 96,000 Chinese people comprise about 0.2% of the group. However, according to MP Kweon, municipal election constituencies are small and tend to be concentrated in particular locations. He claimed that they might influence local election outcomes as a result. Kweon made a claim even though the participation rate of such foreign voters in municipal elections has been declining, from 35.2% in 2010 to 13.3% in the June elections, giving them merely the symbolic right to vote. More than 210,000 individuals signed a petition in 2020 with the title "Chinese permanent residents should be denied the ability to vote in the municipal elections." It was displayed on the bulletin board of the Blue House, which was the presidential residence at the time. At the time, the Liberal government vowed to uphold the existing regulations, claiming that doing so would realize the universality of democracy by enabling tax-paying foreign residents to generate fundamental political beliefs about the neighborhood in which they lived. Seoul, the ruling party's mayor, Oh Se-hoon, caused a commotion in 2021 by blaming his narrow loss in the 2020 parliamentary elections on tens of thousands of Chinese residents who supposedly voted for his rival in his area in eastern Seoul. Most of these naturalized Chinese, who is of Korean descent, are eligible to vote in all elections, including parliamentary and presidential contests, as well as games for local assembly members and officials. Conservatives in power, according to critics, are courting xenophobia to boost their electoral prospects. According to Han Sang-hai, a law professor at Seoul's Konkuk University, the worries expressed by South Korean MPs were overstated. He pointed out that foreigners could only vote for local authorities and were not allowed to participate in elections for parliamentarians or presidents of the state. Local politics, according to Han, are more about giving opportunities for people who intend to dwell in that area permanently to improve their lives and find solutions to their problems through a democratic platform. He claimed that the measure would violate the rights of immigrants married to South Koreans and other groups and possibly incite hatred toward local Chinese people. New lows in relations between Seoul and Beijing. Although China continues to be South Korea's leading trading partner, relations have deteriorated due to the growing nuclear threat posed by North Korea, which is supported and supplied by China, and the ever-increasing competition between Washington and Beijing over Taiwan, human rights, and industrial supply chains. South Korea has urged China to step up efforts to rein in the nuclear aspirations of the Chinese-funded North, which depends on Beijing as its principal ally and source of income. In response to North Korea's increased missile testing, China and Russia have resisted US-led efforts to impose stricter sanctions on the country. China is also concerned about the increased trilateral security cooperation between Washington, Seoul, and Tokyo. Beijing has also expressed concern about the expanding technological partnership between Washington and Seoul, which it views as an effort to divert supply chains from a hegemonic China.